Hey now, it's Sharon, and I'm back to share another idea on how to better policing here in the U.S. If you're new to the channel, I'm a retired detective. I worked for 20 years for a southeastern city in the U.S., and I was also in the military. I'm sharing my ideas, experiences, perspectives, and opinions on how to better the police. Through my experiences, I talked to different police agencies, people, of course. I've worked with them. I've been on task force before, and I found some things in common with other jurisdictions. And so the inner workings of policing, I talk about that mainly on an individual basis and how we can better it. A lot of people say abolish the police. I don't think we can do that, but if we do, we're going to have to replace it with individuals. So that's the level or circle I'm working in. The individual considering policing or is already in policing, and the hard work that we have to do. So with that being said, last week I didn't put out a video, but I'm going to put out another one in place of that one. You know, life is lifing. But I wanted to share this little bit with you. Again, I wrote a book about the experiences of whistleblowing and the ostracism and the retaliation I went through. I give you some of the day-to-day that I went through, some of the thoughts, ideas, and then I write about the revelations I received about myself and my identity and me thinking I was a police officer. There's a difference. I realized in my search and the cleaning out of my heart that police officer was just a job. It was just a job. And who was I really? Because the personal Sharon and the police officer Sharon, they weren't matching up. So that was even more highlighted when I had to blow the whistle the second time, and being ostracized and retaliated against. That made me go inside and figure some things out about myself. And that's why I wrote the book. It's called My Middle Eastern Conflict, Looking Back at My Future. Take a look at the cover, because you can see why the cover has the title. And yes, I do touch on some of the current events of this year, and that helped in my identity and knowing who I was. So yes, there's a little bit of that in there. With that being said, I just want to share this idea that came to mind as I was reading again. And who was I in uniform and out of uniform? It wasn't matching up. What did I represent? And, you know, early in my policing career, I was full of, as they say, pea and vinegar, the other word. And I was running and gunning with the best of them. Everybody's going to jail. I didn't want to hear the story. There was no good cop, good bad cop. No, there was a couple of times, but everybody's going to jail, grandma too. And then in my personal life, as I went into my faith a little bit more, you know, Christ is talking about forgiving and accepting people where they're at and loving people as he has loved me. And I started to struggle with all of that. And so fast forward to 2024, here I am. I'm still cleaning out the heart. It's not an easy job, but I'm working on it. And here it is, 2024, and I've discovered where the kingdom of God is. I've known this for a while, but now I'm going through my heart. And I described it or gave you a visual 2 weeks ago about love lives in my heart. That's where God is supposed to live. He lives in love. He is love. And I only had a small section of my heart given to him, and that's where he stayed. And then I talked about being in his house and looking out the window and getting upset because bills, life is coming. I have to pay mortgage, car, my daughter, things like that. And he was telling me to sit down at the table. I talked about the table. That's in the previous video, the week before last video. And I talked about that. And I had to look back and say, okay, what did I represent when I was policing and in my personal life? And like I said, it wasn't matching up. So I regulate, or I should say, I give that to the choices that I was making as a police officer in my personal life. Did I represent policing or my agency well? I think I did. I think I did. My uniform was always ironed, dry cleaned. Boots always polished. That was from the Army. And my two MOSs, 95 and 96 Bravo. You have to be impeccable. But I brought that into policing. And so I thought I represented policing well. I wore the badge. I would always put it over my heart, put it on the Bible, take it off my uniform every night. I wouldn't just leave it on. I put it on the Bible on my favorite verse, Psalms 143:8. Put it back on, put it over my heart, make the pledge every morning. But in my personal life, like I said, my faith, I started getting more into understanding the finished works of Christ and what I was believing. And it wasn't matching up. I remember going on patrol and they put me in this park to push out homeless people. That started to not sit right with me. I started to patrol. Well, I was on a specialized unit, my very first one. Yeah, my very first specialized unit. And like I said, I was running the gun with the best of them. It wasn't until the second or third personal specialized unit that I went to that I started to question, like, we just keep going into these poor neighborhoods, and I would put my hand up at the the meetings when we're getting ready to go out. How come we can't go to the Ritzy area? I'm not going to name the area specifically, but the Ritzy area. And I would always, I'll get with you Walters afterwards. I talk about that in other videos. And so I started to really sit back and think about, is policing helping or hurting? And what am I doing to contribute to that? Because my faith says to love people where they're at, welcome the immigrants, take care of the poor. And we're here kind of in my preview or vision, we're oppressing them. We're going into their neighborhoods, telling them what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, instead of sitting down talking, okay, what do you need from us? And how do you want us to do it? Because this is what we can do. We were going in there telling them, look, this is how we're going to do it. And this is how it is. You see it on TV, the posturing from police, like they can never be wrong. And a lot of times that didn't sit right with me. So again, what was I representing? And in my personal life, my family, some of my family would tell me I was a know-it-all. And yes, I did. I was. And that made me take a step back. And when I walked into a room, were they walking on eggshells around me? At times, yeah. So I had to really take a step back and look at what was going on in my heart and fix it, challenge it. And so that's what I share in this book. What do I represent now? They closely match now. If I was to go back into policing and towards the end of my career, because I talk about that in other videos and checking out mentally, it started to match up. But I will say this as how should I say this? So let me find the right words. The right words. Okay, my faith, I have to serve others better or meet other people's needs before my own, so to speak, or better others before myself. And that doesn't mean just leave myself undone and use my mortgage money to pay somebody else's car. It doesn't mean that. But am I doing it? Is it reflected in my day-to-day? And as a police officer, I started to realize, okay, I can talk to people. I don't have to talk to people so harsh, so heavy. Not everybody has to go to jail because I have that discretion. Now, if you hurt somebody, yeah, you going. But in the case of just smoking weed in a park, put it out, let's go. Things like that. If they're drinking and I'm driving by and they make an effort to put it away, I'm like, you need to hurry up and get home with that because the next officer ain't gonna let you go probably. Things like that. Because I realized how detrimental those small little cases were to the neighborhood. Like Mr. Johnson, coming home from work, he caught the bus, walking down the street, and he has a beer. I know him because I got out the car and I would talk to him at other times. And this day he's walking down the street with a beer, and he sees me, he tries to put it in his coat. I'm not gonna get out and just, okay, you going to jail. But a lot of times we had to do that We had to do that because the pushback was, you want to earn your check? Of course I want to earn my check. But I talk about that in other videos. But things like that, I started to let my faith help me make the better decisions in policing. And so I would advise the person coming into policing or the folks that are already there, you represent the law, and then you represent your family and your personal life. Do they match up? And how do they match up? I'm gonna leave it right there. That's all I'm gonna say. With that being said, take a look at the online store. The link is in the description. I've created books, notebooks, things like that you can get online. The link is in the description for those. The links for this book in Lulu will be there. Amazon link will be there also. You have to copy and paste, but it takes you right to the book. And as is our tradition, you don't necessarily have to go through a thing to learn from it. Talk to you guys later. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or even comment. Bye-bye.